I was watching the Watch Mojo like top 10 best cartoon kisses, and Gumball and Penny were number 6 or 5, I believe. So yes, we made it.
Welcome to Watch Mojo's Poppin' the Culture, your weekly entertainment check-in. Me? You know me. I'm your ever-loving host with the most, Mojo. That's right, it's Mr. Hollywood himself, Matt Demers. Another amazing show coming your way. I've got Jacob Hopkins. He's one of the voice actors of Boruto, Naruto Next Generation, and so many other things. Plus, I've got Allan Ungar. He's the director of the crime thriller Bandit. Don't want to miss any of it. But first, we're jumping into it. Here's your Hollywood headlines. All right, and he's back to help me break it all down. It's Watch Mojo's very own Ricky Tucci. Hey, Ricky.
What's up, Matt? How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. All right, let's jump into things. All right, we gotta start with the huge announcement regarding Deadpool 3.
But we did have one idea. Hey, Hugh, you want to play Wolverine one more time?
Yeah, sure, Ryan.
Oh yes, he's back, baby. Hugh Jackman will put the claws back on for Ryan Reynolds' Merc with a Mouth's third big screen outing, slated to hit theaters on September 6, 2024. But how will this work with the timeline?
What actually happens in our film is these two get out there.
Okay, Ricky, so many people are excited about this. Online is going a little crazy. But what says you? Is this a good move, or does this kind of mess everything up now for the X-Men?
It's Hugh Jackman. I mean, like, he's the Wolverine. He's been Wolverine forever. So, yes, bring him back. Do something with Ryan Reynolds. Everybody's going to love it. I don't think you can go wrong with those two together. So, huge win for me, for you know, as a fan. And I also think it's going to maybe get a little more talking about the X-Men and what's going to happen in the future with them. So, yeah, it's amazing.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's winner and still king of the cage, the Wolverine.
Okay, well, moving on to the ongoing search for Daniel Craig's successor as 007, James Bond. There's new criteria being set that includes having the incoming MI6 agent needing to, quote, make a 10 to 12 year commitment.
For England, James? No. For me.
And with producers looking to introduce a younger Bond in the franchise, this actually rules out some pretty big contenders, the likes of Idris Elba, Tom Hardy, and Henry Cavill. Now, this does open things up for fan favorite reggae John Page, and even Tom Holland. You know, should he choose to don a bow tie rather than the spider suit. Okay, Ricky, what says you? Who's your pick for Bond, James Bond?
Okay, so I got two that I've been thinking about. One of them is Will Poulter, who I think he's a good age. He's got the physicality now. I think he can make a really good Bond.
What's so special?
There is no special.
You're pretty special.
Did you just say that?
And another one is John Boyega from the Star Wars franchise, who I also think could be a very cool Bond. So those two are kind of like my picks.
Okay, well, looking ahead to the Super Bowl, as music sensation Rihanna has been confirmed to be the halftime headliner.
I choose to be happy. You and I, we're like diamonds in the sky.
Now, this comes after Rihanna actually turned down the offer in 2020 due to opposing the way Colin Kaepernick was treated by the NFL.
As the crowd and players stand, you can see Kaepernick kneeling on the sideline.
All right, well, regardless, Rihanna stands as a prominent artist with a stacked resume of hit song after hit song. But what says you, Ricky, is Riri the right choice for the big stage at the Super Bowl? Will she stack up with the other performance we had?
This kind of seems like the coolest way to make a quote-unquote comeback. You're playing the Super Bowl. Maybe we'll hear a new song. So, yeah, man, I mean, fans have been dying to see her in concert. She's been super focused on her company. You know, she's a girl boss. She's made so much money. She's like a billionaire now. So she's doing amazing. But yes, I think it's a great choice, and I am very excited to see what that halftime show is going to look like.
Plus, if she pulls out, we can just plug in Tom Holland to do another one of those lip sync battles. All right, Ricky, like many people, you've probably seen Adam Levine be a constant trending topic as of late. Well, it doesn't look good for the Maroon 5 frontman as he continues to be at the center of some major infidelity rumors.
Essentially, I was having an affair with a man who's married to a Victoria's Secret model.
It all started when Instagram model Sumner Stroh shared a rather uncomfortable experience with Levine. However, she's not the only one.
People see Adam in front of the camera, and he's good looking, no doubt about it. But backstage, he's a beast.
And Levine's cringe-worthy DMs have also been turned into some pretty savage memes at the singer's expense.
Yeah.
But Ricky, can he recover? He's admitted that he may have crossed the line, but he declined saying that he took part in any adulterous acts. Is he canceled now? Can he recover?
I just think his reputation took such a big hit. I mean, he's, he just looks like it's more the cringy texts and the fact that like the meme is just so funny now and everybody's using it. I mean, that's all you think about now when you think about Adam Levine. So he kind of just put a hole in his reputation and he just looks like a real jerk.
Okay, well, moving on to Batgirl star Leslie Grace, as the actress has shared some behind-the-scenes footage of the now infamously canceled DC superhero film. Posted to her TikTok, the footage features various stages of production, including preparing for fight sequences and other daring stunts.
Gotham has called, and I have answered.
Okay, Ricky, does this fuel the release the Batgirl cut, or, I don't know, does this even make you want to see it?
I think it's ridiculous that they're not releasing a movie that's already made. I don't think that they can look worse by releasing the movie that's already made, even if it tanks, which I don't think it would. So, yeah, I mean, just release the movie. I don't know what they're doing. I think the work is done. Like, you have Brendan Fraser in there, too. Like, just release it.
Can we get some applause? Because there is a hero in the house.
All right, well, last for us in the Hollywood headlines is a bittersweet goodbye to James Earl Jones as the voice of Darth Vader.
Commander, tear this ship apart until you found those plans and bring me the passengers. I want them alive.
After voicing the iconic Star Wars character for over 40 years, the 91-year-old Jones will be letting technology take over.
No, I am your father.
No.
Will it be the same?
He can't do it forever, so it had to, at some point, there had to be a compromise. I think it's nice that he signed off on it. I think it kind of just gives everybody the, okay, they're not just using it, So I think it's good, but yeah, it's not going to be the same, but you won't be able to notice anyway.
Hey, Ricky, always fun having you here to break down all those Hollywood headlines.
Always good to be here.
But hey, I can't have you leave just yet because we got to take the trip. My favorite trip. It's Beyond the List.
Beyond the List.
All right, Ricky, it's time to go beyond the list. What the heck does that mean? Well, we go in the Watch Mojo archives. We pluck out a top 10 list. Me and you get to riff a little, give our own personal opinions. Today should be fun. I'm a big TV guy, and one of the things I really enjoy watching is just these adult animated shows.
Yeah.
Right? And today, Watch Mojo, they had to do the list of the top 10 greatest adult animated comedy shows of all time. Today we're going to break it down, and then we'll get your pick on some of them. Is this a genre you tap into once in a while?
Yeah, of course. I love some funny animation, some adult animation. That's not all for kids. And there's some really, really good stuff out there.
There is.
Curious to see what made the list.
Yeah, I have some really big favorites, so I'm hoping they end up close to the top of the list. We shall find out. I usually watch these before going to bed. Actually, this is like one of those like turn your brain off, just be entertained before you hit the bed. So, all right, let's find out. Number 10. What? Oh, I would have put this so much closer to the top. One of my all-time favorites is Beavis and Butthead. Ricky.
Yeah, this is a oldie but a goodie for sure. It's a little bit before my time, but I grew up with all the references. I mean, I grew up with all the skits. So yeah, I think maybe for the younger audience, they might not know it as well, but Beavis and Butthead like paved the way in a lot of ways.
Absolutely. This was a show that I actually discovered. Well, I want to say discovered. I always knew of it, but I had purchased like the seasons, the earlier seasons.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Not too long ago, and I was like, this is so fun. These characters are so stupid, but the comedy is done smartly. Like Mike Judge is a genius, the guy that voices them and does all the writing, and it's back. So I'm so excited.
There's like a movie or something coming out.
There is. It's already out. It's Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe.
That's it.
It's one of my favorite movies of the year. Not even joking.
Okay, I'll check it out.
It's really great. Paramount Plus has all the new Beavis and Butthead stuff, so I'm so glad it's back. All right, so that's number 10. Okay, Watch Mojo. That's a little bit of a strike on my part. But I do recommend if people, like you said, the younger generation, you want to see what it's all about, check out Beavis and Butthead. Okay, now, this is going to be a hot on here. Number 9, so low. Family Guy, number 9?
Yeah, number 9. I feel like it could have been a little bit closer to the middle. Just because of how many things it's covered. I mean, every cultural moment that's ever happened has been covered in Family Guy. It's been going on for a bazillion years.
I was going to say 1999.
Yeah.
But remember it got canceled and they brought it back? Like it was like a...
Yeah, it was really weird. I that was like a gray area. I kind of blurred that out of my memory because for me, it's always been going, it just hasn't stopped. So, but that is not, as a number 9, I'm very curious to see what's ahead of it. So
yeah, because it's a great show because all those characters are so recognizable, and that's the thing about these adult animated shows, these comedy shows, is that the characters are so well defined, and you just know them, like Peter, Meg, Brian, Stewie.
And the voices, you hear them right away. You're like, I know who this is. Yeah.
By the way, a little bit of a side quest. Are we ever going to get a Family Guy movie? You think? Because they did The Simpsons, we did Bob's Burgers this past summer, did pretty good. Why aren't we getting like an actual big Family Guy movie?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I feel like why not? Why wouldn't they do one? But that's a really good question. I feel like they kind of have to do one. Maybe when they stop producing Family Guy, maybe as like a send off. But until then, I mean, it's on the table. I mean, people watch
odd.
it. Yeah,
because what's his name? Seth MacFarlane. He did Ted. Which was a big movie, had very similar comedy style to Family Guy.
Yes, you could tell, right? Yeah, it really was. It felt like Family Guy almost.
I was gonna say, Ted the bear actually sounded like Brian, right? Like it's
exactly like Brian. Yeah, exactly like Brian. I think it's coming though. I think we'll maybe in the next 5 years we'll hear something about that.
Yeah, it's like The Simpsons. It took them like 20 years. Okay. Yeah. Bob's Burgers lands at number 8. I just mentioned their movie that came out on the big screen. Yeah, this is a fun one. This is one that, I want to get. I think I've seen a couple of episodes here and there. I'm a big fan of the he does Archer as well. I just can't remember his name. Yeah. I know exactly.
The main actor, but it's just H. John Benjamin. That's it. Yeah, his voice is great, so he kind of makes the show for me. He's hilarious. But it's never one that I really sunk my teeth into. It's kind of just been like on in the background, But I heard a lot of good things, and I know it has a good fan base. So, yeah.
Yeah, no. Again, another one with just really fun characters. That's just like turn your brain off, get entertained, watch some Bob's Burgers. Number 7's one, and speaking of one that you haven't tapped into, this is one that I've heard of, and I haven't tapped into. It's called The Boondocks. I knew about this, and I thought maybe they were coming back. Maybe that was in the works. It ran from 2005 to 2014. What do you know about the Boondocks? Anything? People,
yeah, so it's pretty. It's got also very, very big fan base. The Boondocks, and it touched on. I mean, it's kind of like an anime style. So, like when you think of adult animation, you think of like this more goofy style. This was very serious and very well done.
Yeah.
And it was a big comment on the culture about being black, about the way people are treated. Like. It was a big social commentary at the when it was airing, especially in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, and it said a lot and did a lot, and it also paved the way for more serious conversations in these kinds of shows. but also keeping that that those areas where it's pretty funny. So it's a pretty big deal that show exists, and I'd like to see more of it for sure.
You'll see a lot of it on the Watch Mojo videos where it's like cartoons that tackled serious issues. It's like always Boondocks will always be on that list. I always see it. So there you go. Number 6 is a fun one. We're almost at the midway point, and we're getting Futurama, which is also coming back 2023. We're getting a little reboot of Futurama, which I'm excited about. This was another fun one. Matt Groening, who did Simpsons. People were like, can he kind of replicate that success with another show? Well, he did it. This was a fun one.
That's crazy achievement too.
It is.
Futurama is also super. It's been going on forever and is super big. Another show that I've never watched it, but I've seen so many episodes just at friends' houses or in the background that you just kind of know,
Yeah.
It's like
Ben, the character Bender. He's the robot guy.
Yes, Bender's everywhere, man. He's like a Stewie, It's like
Bender, for my money, is one of the funniest characters ever created for any show, live action. Anyways, Bender, this guy, just cracks me up.
He's shameless. I love he's a robot. He's shameless. He doesn't care about anything. He's amazing.
Some characters, and that's the thing, you can get away with so much on these adult animation that you can't in real life, and that's kind of what makes them great. These wonderful characters. Number 5, the midway point, we got ourselves some King of the Hill. Now, I mentioned with Beavis and Butthead, that was Mike Judge. Well, this is also Mike Judge. I kind of would have flipped those. I would have put Beavis and Butthead here. But King of the Hill, talk about having a big fan base. Yeah, people love them some King of the Hill, and I feel like with the advent of like social media with memes and TikTok, and I'm seeing clips, I'm bombarded with lots of King of the Hill stuff lately.
Yeah, I've seen like fan casts for like the live action King of the Hill
right.
too.
I've seen that too.
So another show again that's just like always been on in the background. I just know it's the propane accessory.
Yes.
But I've seen some funny clips, some moments that I'm like, I see the appeal of this, but again, not my go-to.
Yeah, it's another one of those shows that Mike Judge, he creates these kind of characters that are kind of dim-witted or slow or whatnot, but then there's so much smart writing behind it,
right?
That it's just and it's just downright hilarious. Like they're legitimately funny.
Yeah,
that guy's fantastic, Mike Judge. Number 4 is Rick and Morty. Rick and Morty. That seems to be the current darling of a comedy animation right now. People can't get enough.
Everywhere.
I have a friend that's obsessed. Yeah. With Rick. Anytime there's a birthday or something, it's like, oh yeah, I got to get him Rick and Morty. But what does he not have?
What does he?
The merchandise is huge for this. But I think it comes down to the characters that once again here they're just so fun to watch.
Yeah, Rick is just he's brutal, and I just watching Morty get eviscerated after time is really funny.
Yeah, and the writing's smart.
Also, Solar Opposites, which I don't think is on this list, but that's another one from Justin Roiland, and it's absolutely hilarious. If nobody's seen it, you should absolutely watch it.
Yeah, no, definitely do. Rick and Morty for sure. I'm not gonna rain on anyone's parade. Number 4. What's number 3? Oh, I forgot about our friends SpongeBob.
Oh man,
Mr. SpongeBob SquarePants. You want to talk about a character that has lasted the test of time and continues to endear so many generations. That's the thing, though. SpongeBob fans, Ricky.
Yeah,
they range from like young kids to like
I grew up watching
grown adults.
Literally, I grew up watching SpongeBob. Like I've probably seen every episode just because I was after school or whatever. And the memes and the media that he's been. I mean, like SpongeBob is everywhere. It's iconic. Yeah, it's never going to go away. SpongeBob is a property that in 100 years, SpongeBob will it'll be somewhere. Like, yeah, I'm not surprised that it's that high on the list, to be honest.
No, exactly. Not going to complain about that. I always get the SpongeBob every summer. I grab a SpongeBob popsicle.
Oh, those you have to watch them melt.
Yeah, but like it's always like deformed SpongeBob face. They're actually pretty good. It's like this kind of sweet fruit punch. Yeah, get it. It's better than I sometimes get the Sonic one.
The blue one.
Yeah,
don't get that.
No, get SpongeBob. All right, number 2. Oh, how could we forget? I think we all know what number 1 is, but yeah, let's get to number 2. Is South Park. South Park is number 2. Started back in 1997. Still going strong. I mean, that fan base is an army. People love them some South Park. And you want to talk about tackling everything that's going on in the world, they do it and more.
Yeah, Matt Smith and Trey Parker are absolute psychopaths. I think I love it. I love it. They don't care. Nothing is unapproachable to them. I think it's a really good model. I think that the minute you start saying like we can't touch this, you surrender some of that creative force, and like they just don't surrender ever. And they have not just the shows, but they've made games too, which are really, really fun.
Movies,
and movies. I mean, like the whole property is just done so well. And it continues to push these boundaries and these uncomfortable topics while making us laugh. So, yeah, well deserved for sure at number 2.
I don't know if you ever saw this. They did a documentary about like what went into making the show, and you would think animation, like, well, that's a whole process because you got to ship off the animation. That takes a long time. Like South Park does a show, like it was crazy. I think it was at some point. Some episodes are done in like a 7-day period.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah,
that's insane.
Because they really want to keep the topics super
Correct.
fresh. So it's almost done like almost like a Saturday Night Live type.
Yes, that's
pressure
a good way of thinking
cooker
about it.
where it's like the writer's room really touches on what's hot, and then it's like get to work, get it out, and then it's out, and then it's on to the next one, which is so fun. But they pull it off so great. All right, here's some honorable mentions. BoJack Horseman, of course. BoJack Horseman,
yes,
that's a great one. Netflix had a big hit on their hands. Archer, Archer didn't make that top 10.
I love Archer. Archer would
too.
have been on the list for me. Archer's hilarious. It's also been going on for many years. I think it's like in 9 seasons, if not more. Again, H. John Benjamin, hilarious, great voice actor.
Oh, amazing.
Sad it's not on the list. Sad it's not on the official list.
And listeners and watchers, go in the archives. I interviewed Pam Poovey herself, the voice of Pam Poovey.
Yes,
Amber Nash, so fun. Holy
Amazing.
shit snacks. She's amazing. We talk all about Archer. Go in the archives, watch that one. All right, what's this? Home movies. I have no idea what this is.
Never heard of it.
1999. Watch Mojo called it a wonderful show about growing up and making movies. I guess some people out there are like, yeah. I'm like, no, I don't know. Venture Brothers. I know that one.
Yeah.
That made the honorable mentions. And Gravity Falls. Yeah, people really do like Gravity Falls. That's a Disney series.
Yeah, it's got a big cult following.
All right, number 1. I mean, there was no surprise what it was going to be, but let's talk about The Simpsons.
The Simpsons. I mean, what is there to say about The Simpsons? It's the cornerstone of adult animation. It's what gave birth to the entire genre in its form now. I mean, it's just
every show that we talked about and loved wouldn't be on the air with the Simpsons. Yeah, but the Simpsons owes a lot as well to like the Flintstones and so on and so forth. But Simpsons redefined what an adult animated comedy is. Everyone's got their favorite era. I mean, it's been on since what, 1989. The writing staff has changed. Do you have like a favorite episode, time period? It's hard because they all kind of blend together now. Disney Plus is great because they have them all. You can break it down.
Yeah, I have no idea. I'm so lost in the timeline of what's happening in The Simpsons. So
I know.
No, I really feel like I gotta get on Disney Plus and maybe go through some of them because there were some funny episodes for sure.
There are. I like the monorail. Remember that one, the monorail episode? That was written by Conan O'Brien. That era really seemed to be good. Yeah, for sure. And then the movie, the Simpsons movie.
Yes.
Pretty
that was
good.
It was pretty good. Yeah.
Spider Pig, remember?
Spider Pig. Yeah, I do remember Spider Pig. That's actually that was like the number 1 thing I remember from the trailer.
True, me too. But they should make another one. I think The Simpsons. I mean, this will keep going.
Yeah,
those
there's
characters.
an appetite for it. Yeah.
But then, if you lose one of the voice actors, I don't know if they can be replaced. I don't know if it's like a Mickey Mouse type thing where you can get those imitators in because those voices are iconic. That would be a tough decision, right?
Maybe they use AI and they never have to change it, you know.
We'll find out. The future. We never know what it's going to hold. But Ricky, I can't thank you enough for breaking this all down.
Always a pleasure, and I can't wait to be back to break down more headlines and some more lists.
Well, I'll have you. You're one of my faves. Speaking of faves, here's one of my favorite interviews on our Mojo Chats of the week. Take a look. He's an actor and a voice star, and I can't wait to chat all about his current projects. Look who it is. It's Jacob Hopkins joining me. Hey, Jacob, how's it going?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, man.
Listen, I'm excited, and I know a lot of people out there are excited too, because I don't need to tell you this, but the anime audience is they love it. They don't just like anime, they love anime. What's your fandom, by the way, before we get into it?
Oh yeah, I mean it's definitely a following of some sorts. It started with Gumball when I was around 11 years old. I started building up that fan base, and then at around like when I was 19 is when I finally put my foot in the door of like Fushi into Your Eternity, Code, and Boruto, Oishi, and Prince of Tennis, and so on and so on, and then that sort of amassed not only like the Western cartoon fandom, but also the anime fandom, and then that is surreal to me, even saying that out loud.
No, it's there. It totally is there. Okay, I'm going to put a pin in the anime because I want to rewind a little bit to see how you got into it. Now, I read somewhere, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, your dad was on a little TV show. Is that true?
Right. That's right. Yeah. So when I was around 4 years old is when I became an actor, 4 or 5 years old. And my dad in the 90s was on General Hospital. He played AJ Quartermain.
GH.
Yeah, just a little show. And yeah, and he and I were running errands one day, and we stopped by his agents, and they took an interest in me, and you know, it was history from there.
Did you get to go on the General Hospital set? Like, did you ever?
So at that point, my dad was still an actor, but he wasn't doing General Hospital anymore. That was before my time.
Oh,
so,
okay.
So I unfortunately, yeah, that would have been cool though. But what's funny enough is that if you like go to, I think it's in like Disney World or something, and they have like the ABC studios, they have General Hospital and the Goldbergs side by side.
Oh,
yeah. Both
there you
ABC.
go.
Yeah, there we go. Nice segue, right?
Go.
Yeah, so I play Chad Kremp on the Goldbergs. That's right. Both ABC shows. So it's crazy how that worked out.
That's interesting to me because, and then when you were very young, you were on True Blood, right? You were.
Yeah. So that's when I was around 9 years old, and I played Alexander Drew. He was like, he was the most powerful vampire on this vampire authority, but he was stuck in a 9-year-old body.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's awesome. So, okay, so let's talk a second about the live action acting where you're, it's you in your own skin interacting with people versus the voice work, because your filmography is plenty of voice work. What's the biggest difference? I mean, I would think, that interacting with someone might be a little easier, but maybe I'm wrong with that.
Well, it's definitely they're very different crafts. When you're on camera, there's a presence that you need to create for yourself, a presence of the character, his facial expressions, the body movements, sort of like the aura that he exudes, but when you're behind the microphone with no cameras, none of that really matters. It's all got to come through your voice. So there's a little bit of exaggeration that has to be done on your end. But you sort of have to, and it's cool because you have a lot of more freedom, I would say. You sort of get to create these environments and around you and imagine, what's really happening. And you get a lot more freedom with exploring, the tones of the voice, the pitches, a raspiness, gruff, stuff like that. And that's really fun to play.
More room to play. Never thought about that way. And plus, you don't have to wear pants if you don't want to doing the voice work, right?
I'd highly encourage it, but yeah,
okay.
Sure.
For sanitation purposes, you should probably wear pants all the time. I'm just saying, if you choose not to, you probably could. So what made you get it? How did the voice work start? Is that something that you always wanted to do, or did you kind of fall into that?
Oh yeah, voice work was always something I wanted to do for sure. I grew up on Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon at a very young age, and I got into voiceover when I was around 11 years old. So I already had 6 years of acting experience under my belt. I had already been doing the Goldbergs, and I had already done True Blood, but I'd never done voiceover before, ever. And what's weird about that is that Gumball was the very first voiceover audition and job that I booked.
No way.
No prior voiceover experience. So what I had to go through a lot of training. I had to go through like 2 months of training once I was being considered for the role. I was like, okay, Jacob Hopkins, this guy's our pick, but we want to see if he's ready to take on this mantle,
wow.
basically. So I had to go through 2 months of going in studio to record, full episodes, scenes, snippets. I had to actually train, so I had to build up the endurance of my vocal cords. I had to work on my diction, my enunciation, my pacing, and I basically learned everything I needed to know about voiceover from doing that show for 4 years.
Wow. So you did I was going to ask you, so you did Gumball for 4 years. How many episodes is that? That's something like...
It was almost 100. It was like 97 or 98 or something like that. Yeah, it was a long, long time.
That's a lot. So there's a whole boot camp involved. Do they limit like food? Can you like not eat certain foods on the day of recording? Like, no, what do they say? Like, no, is it dairy you can't do?
Yeah, it's like no dairy, no sodas. They highly encourage apples though, because it actually has a chemical that helps it sort of like creates this membrane in your mouth where you don't make any like clicks with your mouth. You don't like over salivate or anything. So yeah, eat a lot of green apples if you're in the booth.
Intriguing. there you go. Get some insider tips. Okay, so and so Gumball must have been a pretty cool experience. I mean, that was such a fun show.
Yeah, that was. I mean, like for an 11-year-old like me, it was surreal. I was doing this when I was in middle school, and I was having the time of my life, man. It was so much fun. I remember I would go in like I remember the schedule. I would go in like every Wednesday morning from 8 to 10, and it was a blast, dude. I got to do, and Gumball wasn't just Gumball. It was a fourth wall breaking show, so he played like characters within characters. I remember there was one episode where it was like the Halloween special, and I got to be Beetlejuice, like literally Beetlejuice. It was really fun.
That's awesome. That is so cool. Okay, let's switch to the anime.
Yes.
Because you've done let's start with the one that you're doing now, the one that people can watch and check out.
Of course, yeah. So for you visual watchers out there, I got my Code background here. And Code is a character on Boruto, the continuation of Naruto, and I'm super, super excited about that. He is, I would describe him as like the anime version of Loki. He's like this evil, he's evil, but he's got his own agendas. He doesn't necessarily line up with Kara, which is like the evil band that he's with. So be on the lookout for him. He's pretty unpredictable and very, very powerful too. So I'm really excited to see the fights he gets into. And I also voice Makoto Katai in Komi Can't Communicate, that recently dropped on Netflix.
Nice.
He's like this tall, buff, kind of almost like thuggish guy, and people are really, really scared of him. He's really intimidating. He's a man of few words, but through all of his internal dialogue that only we can hear, we find out that he's really none of those things. He's not a thug. He's not a bad person. And he's certainly not intimidating. He's just incredibly nervous to make friends. And that sort of exudes his intimidation. Really, he's like the sweetest guy on the planet. And he just wants to make at least one friend.
Awesome. Were you an anime fan before getting into the anime stuff? Because it's a whole world.
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah.
Wow.
And that's why I wanted to get into it. And like I said, I started voice work when I was 11, and I didn't get into it until like last year when I was 19. So I grew up on like Dragon Ball, My Hero, Yu-Gi Hakusho, a bunch of different stuff. And it was always something that I kind of wanted to dip my toes into, and it's a bubble. It's a little bit difficult to break into. It's different than the Western animation world. These studios like Funimation and Crunchyroll, they use a lot of their like favorite people to do all these different shows. Like whenever you're watching the English dubs of anime, you'll be watching like Dragon Ball, Yu Yu Hakusho, My Hero, like the three that I just said, and you're like, wow, there's a lot of the same people in these ones. You sort of pick up on that, but I was very fortunate to do so. And yeah, it's been a blessing, and it's been a lifelong passion that I've always dreamed of doing, and I ain't stopping anytime soon.
That's so cool. That's so cool. I you touched on something I just wanted to quickly ask you about, and that was the dubbing. So for people that don't know, so anime is done. It's dubbed over, right, for the English actor. So what does that do for you as the performer? Because I'm assuming that with the Western animation is much different, because they kind of make it with the performer in mind, and now you're kind of working with something that's already out. I mean, that is challenging, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely a lot different. I would say, like, for example, Gumball or Dragon's Rescue Riders. Those are Western cartoons, right? It's in America, so they're not. The approach that we take is that we don't animate before the voice work is actually done. We give the voiceover artists freedom to play around with the characters, definitely like pacing their lines differently, and then they animate around that. But with anime, and actually, it's even in Japan they dub it. They animate it first, and even in Japan they have to dub over the animation, and then it's the same thing in America. We dub over it in English. But that definitely, it's really fun, but it definitely takes away the freedom of like the pacing of your lines, saying them how quickly or slowly you want to. You have to match up with the lip movements, which was a little bit of a challenge when I first started. It's definitely a lot different. It wasn't something that I had done before. But I remember when I was recording for Dragon's Rescue Riders, I voiced Axel Fink on that show. And Mary E. McGlynn, my director, who directs a ton of different anime, Cowboy Bebop is like, I think, her most notable. And I remember when I had to do like pickups and they had already animated over it. So they were like, it kind of counts as ADR. You kind of have to dub over. We just like need you to say this line clear. We chose a different line for you to say. So that's what I meant by pickups. I had to like pick it up and do the line differently or say it differently. And I didn't really have a problem doing it. It sort of came naturally. And I remember Mary was like, you're kind of like an ADR pro. You're like a 6-year-old ADR veteran. What's happening here? I was like, cool, because I want to get into anime.
No, that's so interesting to me. This interview, by the way, will be dubbed over. You'll be, I think Morgan Freeman's going to do your voice, and I'm, I think James Corden maybe. It'll be a whole thing.
Dubbed over the anime.
Anime. We here at Watch Mojo, we love to rank things. That's kind of our thing. We do these top 10s. What tops your list of anime of all time? Like your favorite
all time.
I know I'm throwing this big one on
man.
you right now. What tops that list for you? Your Mount Rushmore of anime. You can throw it a few if you have to.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I know I mentioned it like 2 times already, but I definitely have to say Yu Yu Hakusho. It was it's an oldie from the 90s, but I really think it still stands up. It's got so much heart in it. It's got an amazing plot about like these humans that hunt demons, and some of those humans turn out to be part demon, and so they have to deal with that burden of hunting their own kind. And it's such a great story. All the characters are amazing. The cast is amazing. Justin Cook, Christopher Sabat, Chuck Huber. They're all incredible. And I think like Linda Young is in it. Like they got so many amazing people. It's such a great show. I'd highly recommend it if you haven't watched it. I really wanted to quickly say I was watching the Watch Mojo like top 10 best cartoon kisses, and Gumball and Penny were number 6 or 5, I believe. So yes, we made it.
We love our Gumball for sure. Jacob, thanks again for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
All right, now here's my chat with director Allan Ungar to tell me all about the crime thriller Bandit. All right, the movie is titled Bandit, and it's this really fun, based on a true story. Well, hey, who better to tell me all about it than the director? Hey, Allan, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Listen, I'm excited to chat with you about this movie. I love these type of movies, really fun stuff. Give me I don't want you to give us the whole spiel, but give us the abridged edition for people that aren't familiar with what Bandit is about. Like I said, it is based on a true story. What can we expect, or tell people what's going on in here?
Yeah, so the film is about Gilbert Galvin Jr., who's known as the Flying Bandit in the 80s, and he has the record for the most consecutive bank robberies in Canadian history. So it's very much like a Canadian Catch Me If You Can.
Amazing. And by the way, before we get more into the story, you've had a fantastic cast. Let's run it down. Josh Duhamel is playing our lead here, but you also had the likes of Alicia Cuthbert. You've got so many great actors. How did you land this great cast?
You know what? The script that Craig Wenman wrote speaks for itself. It was so rich in detail and characters. Sort of truth being stranger than fiction element was one of those things that I think has this appeal and this allure. And so when we sent it to Josh, his manager pitched it as, this is your Catch Me If You Can. So Josh was taken by it immediately. And Alicia was my first choice from day one for the role of Andrea, because I've been a huge fan of hers forever. And I obviously wanted a Canadian making a Canadian story. And I know she lived in Ottawa for a little bit. Obviously, she grew up in Calgary, but she kind of lived in some of the places that we were setting the film in. And so I think it was a great opportunity for her to take on a character like that, like a super Canadian role that she hasn't really done before.
And most people think Alicia Cuthbert from like 24, but Popular Mechanics for Kids, she was on there with I think it was Jay Baruchel.
Jay Baruchel, that's right.
There's some Canadian trivia for you.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's stick with that Canadian trivia for a second, because this is really interesting stuff that comes out of Canada. But what we're seeing in the movie, and I was actually surprised to find this out after the fact, you didn't film in Canada. We didn't film the stuff in Ottawa, Vancouver, Toronto.
It's a crazy story, and it's funny because a lot of Canadians didn't realize it till after, which means we did our job. We duped you. Perfect. No, it was a wild thing. You know, I started developing this about 5 years ago, and obviously my Canadian patriotism and like the excitement for telling a Canadian story. Oh, Canada's going to be Canada. It's not going to be, New York doubling, like all these American movies, they come to Toronto, they come to Vancouver, and it's always as an American city. So I was really excited for Canada to be Canada. And then COVID hits. And then it's like, okay, how do you tell an actor like Mel Gibson, who's going to work for a week, that you're going to spend more time sitting in a hotel quarantining by yourself than you are working? It's not a great sell. And it's not a great sell to anybody who wants to come to Canada. And on top of that, we just didn't get the support from the Canadian agencies and the subsidies that we were thinking was sort of like a shoe-in. So we kind of felt that there was just no choice. If we had to make the movie, we had to go somewhere else that had a better tax credit and where actors could actually not have to have like issues at the border. We were fortunate enough that we did a few days in Ottawa after principal photography. So we did come and shoot on location in Ottawa at Parliament Hill. We did all that for real, but the majority of the film was shot in Georgia.
And usually it's the opposite, right? Usually
always
it's like
the opposite.
Toronto's like New York, Ottawa's like any Christmas movie ever in the States. It's fun to see it flipped aside. You mentioned Mel Gibson too, who's a super big name, and I feel like Mel Gibson's latest filmography is really great. He's tackling these really interesting roles. There's a movie called Fat Man where he played Santa Claus,
which he shot in Ottawa.
That's right. Hey, there you go. 16.
And the real character he's based on was called the Fat Man, funny enough.
There you go.
The real character that Mel plays, who they share a very uncanny resemblance in their facial features. The only difference is the real Tommy was about 100 pounds heavier, and he was called the Fat Man, which I thought Mel was like, it was so weird how full circle it was having made Fat Man in Ottawa.
Amazing. Well, people are always interested in Mel Gibson. What was he like to work with? I mean, his filmography speaks for itself at this point.
Yeah, I mean, he's an Oscar-winning filmmaker. He's a legend of an actor. He was wonderful, honestly. He was patient. He was respectful. He was so courteous to the process. I was like, okay, if he sees me doing something he's going to disagree with, is he going to step in and say, you should do the camera here, move that light there? And honestly, we built trust very early on, and he was an absolute joy to work with.
When you're dealing with movies that are based on these true to life stories, I'm assuming there's a lot of research that goes into it. What was that process like? I think there was a book, right? There was interviews that were done.
Yeah, there was a book authored by Robert Knuckle with Ed Arnold, who actually conducted all the interviews with Gilbert Galvan in prison throughout the late 80s, early 90s. And so the book just had so much in it that we could draw from. I mean, there was so much in it that it was so difficult for us to figure out what to cram into the film and what had to be omitted from the film. I mean, there was stuff that we never got to shoot, and then there was about 35 minutes of footage that was actually cut that we shot from the final cut of the film. It was almost 3 hours long. It was kind of absurd. And so, when you have a true story that has so many of these incredible details in it, you have so much to pick from.
So, Allan, you know how to rob a bank now, right? Like you could do it.
It's very awkward to walk into a real active bank with your production designer, your location scout, your cinematographer, and you're literally, and then the manager and the tellers are watching you, and they're like, "What is going on?" So
I got some surveillance camera there. We could sneak in, distract that guy. We can do the whole thing. It's amazing. No, I really do love movies like this, and congratulations, you guys had your big premiere in Los Angeles. Reviews are really great as well. So big congratulations going out to you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was a wonderful. Last night was a wonderful experience. People are really loving the film. I think the reviews are starting to speak for themselves as well in terms of Josh's performance and sort of the character-driven nature of the film, which is probably not what people would be expecting, thinking it's probably more of an action film or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, it's a drama. It's a biopic.
Absolutely. Oh, before I go, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention you did this really great kind of fan film for Uncharted.
Yeah, with
right? So fun. Now, are you? I mean, we here at Watch Mojo, we love our video games. Are you going to tackle another video game? Is there one that you would love to get your hands on?
There's a couple. I'd love to do Max Payne. I think that'd be awesome. I'd love to do like Max Payne, like John Barenthal or Frank Grillo. I think that would slay. But right now, I'm attached to produce several adaptations of some video game properties. I took over the rights to Fruit Ninja. I'm doing Driver with Ubisoft. And there's a couple other fun things in the works. But the studio system, these things can take forever, and they take so much time just in development. So it's like when they're ready, they'll call me. I'll be on a plane.
Amazing. Well, we will be watching. We'll be watching for it. Allan, hey, I can't thank you enough for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, well, that's going to do it for this edition, everybody. Big thanks going out to Jacob Hopkins, Allan Ungar, and of course, my man, Ricky Tucci. And hey, biggest thank going out to you for watching and listening. Until next time, I've been Mr. Hollywood, popping that culture.